This video was well overdue. I'm 2 weeks postpartum. As you can tell, sleep deprivation, hormonal changes, and oh, it's all blurry. He's over there. It's blurry in his little swing. But if you're interested in watching my birth story or just comparing or want to listen, keep watching. So a little mister right here, there we go, was born March 16th. So he was born at 39 weeks, 6 days. So literally 1 day from 40 weeks. So it was kind of an interesting story. My birth was really great, and you know, you hear about all these traumatic birth experiences, so it's really nice to like share something positive for once. I always see on TikTok people who just go to home births because their experience in the hospital was so like negative, but mine was very good. It was kind of like rather ironic. So at like 38 weeks, I started having this uncontrollable itching, like in my hair, on my feet, on my hands, and I started to get concerned about it. So I mentioned it to my doctor, and they were slightly worried that it could be cholestasis. And cholestasis is like, I'm trying to think how to explain this. It's like some liver disorder. It's just like with your liver enzymes, and it can be dangerous just for the baby. But they typically recommend, like, if you have cholestasis, to give birth around 37, 38 weeks. So I was already 39 weeks, and the blood test takes a week to get back. So the midwife that I was seeing was like, well, we'll just induce you already because you're already 39 weeks. So it's not going to hurt anything, and it takes a week to get the blood test back. So there's no point of waiting, you know. He's finally sleeping. But anyways, back to the story. So the midwife I saw that day for like the symptoms of cholestasis, she scheduled us for an induction at the hospital on the 15th at night. So she's like, you know, she gave us the instructions. You're just going to go to labor and delivery at 9 p.m. on the 15th, and they'll induce you. So that was like the next day. And so that was the 14th that happened, that she put in for the induction. And I had so many mixed emotions. Like, I was like, oh my gosh, this baby's coming like tomorrow night, probably the next day. So in the next few days I was gonna have a baby. I was super nervous, but like also super excited, and I did cry a little bit. I mean, it's a lot of emotions, like, oh my gosh, this baby's coming. Like, so there was basically no more waiting around for when labor was gonna start. But ironically, the morning of the 15th, I started like leaking, like my water broke. And I didn't know it was my water, because like when you see it on the movies, like a woman's water breaking, you just see this gush of water come out. Oh my gosh, my water broke. And it wasn't like that for me at all. I like noticed like the tiniest leaking. And of course, I go on Google and I search, is leaking normal in late pregnancy, da. And Google's like, yeah, you're good. Which I should not have Googled, but I was already going to the hospital that night anyways. So I was like, okay, so it's nothing, it's normal. And I also started like cramping that day, and I wasn't sure if they were cramps or contractions, or like minor contractions, because one, they're really inconsistent. But like when you are told about contractions, they kind of have this like peak, like they like hurt, keep hurting, and then they kind of like die off. And that's kind of what it felt like. And I was timing them, and they were like very inconsistent. I tried to walk a little bit and like lay down, and they, like I said, they were inconsistent. They would stop, go, and then I'd have them and then not have them for a few hours. So I wasn't too concerned. I did think about calling labor and delivery, but I was like, no, I'm literally going there tonight. So Zach and I spent our last day together. You know, went to McDonald's right before I got induced because I wanted a big meal, knowing that I probably wouldn't be able to eat. So, you know, went to McDonald's and all that stuff, hung out, you know, kind of enjoyed our last few moments together as just us two. And so we get to the hospital, we check in, and everything's going well. And the midwife comes in that was on call, and she was just like, hey, I just want to let you know you don't have cholestasis. And I was like, oh, like that's reassuring. So I was really worried that if I did, it would have already affected the baby and there could be complications. So the fact that I didn't have it was reassuring. But she was like, you don't have to be induced today if you don't want to, but if you do, it's fine. And I had to like think about it because I was obviously really scared of an induction. Inductions can be really long and technically more painful than natural labor. But I came to the, conclusion. I was like, I'm here. I already like said my goodbyes to my normal life without a baby. So, my husband and I spent time together. Let's just do this because I'm ready to go. And she was like, okay. And then, she warned me of the risks, that it could take a while, could be more painful, this and this. So I did mention to her, I was like, also, I have been having I don't know if they're contractions or not. I've been having this cramping and I've also been having this leaking. So she's like, okay, well, we'll get you checked in and then to the hospital, admitted, and then we'll check you and go from there. So we did all the necessary paperwork, millions of papers, just to be checked into the hospital and admitted. And then that probably took till 11. I guess it wasn't that, yeah, probably 11. They finally got done and they had to draw like blood on me and all kinds of stuff. And so when that was all done, she came back and she's like, I'm going to cervical check you and also check on that fluid you were talking about. So I was like, okay. And, I undress and she sees my underwear and she's like, oh, that looks like your water. And her eyes kind of got big. She's like, how long has this been going on? And I was like, oh, since like 9 this morning. She's like, oh, well, I'm going to swab you when I do your cervical check. And this swab will tell us if it's amniotic fluid or not. And so of course I'm like, okay. I get in the hospital gown, she checks my cervix. I'm only at 2 and she also does a swab. When she did my cervical check, it hurt so bad. And I've had cervical checks before. I think I got one at 36 weeks and every week after that, and they never were painful. And I also got a membrane sweep, which hurt but not that bad. But when she checked me that time, oh my gosh, it hurt so bad. And I just remember looking at her and I'm like holding on the bed and I'm like, why does it hurt so bad? Like, I've never had a cervical check that hurts. And she's like, you might be just going into labor on your own and everything's super tender down there. And I was like, okay. So she did the swab and she looked under the she's like, I'm gonna go look under the microscope and also send it to the lab and it'll both verify. So she comes back really fast and in like 10 minutes, which I thought it would take a while. And she's like, this is like amniotic fluid. So look, and they also had I don't know what it's called, the belly monitor on me. And she's like, and you've been having like these minor contractions. They are inconsistent. And I was like, oh, so I have been contracting all day. And I was basically in labor, like early labor all day. And, then shortly after, the contractions picked up very fast. They were like, when you see them on the little monitor, they were kind of like small ones, and then they started to get really big. I don't know what like measurement they used to measurement. It goes from like, I think when they put it on my belly, it was like 20. I don't know the measurement. And then when it went all the way up, it was like 100. At first it was only going to like 60. So the fact that it went to 100, I knew they were getting real. And they started to get really, really painful. I couldn't even walk. I couldn't even like lay down. Every time I had one, it was so painful. I tried every position to like reduce the pain. Nothing worked. And like before, like when I like thought about pain management, I was like, I'll get in the bathtub when I have contractions, but I couldn't even walk. I didn't want to do anything. I just wanted them to stop. I would like sit in the most uncomfortable positions just so like I wouldn't like anything that would stop them. I had my legs tucked some weird way. I was trying everything and they hurt so bad. And I don't know why they didn't give me the epidural right away. Like when I started getting them, not really like sure. But they did offer me fentanyl first, and I was like, okay, like, I'll try anything at this point. So they gave me the fentanyl, and she said it was going to make me feel drunk, and it might take the edge off the pain. And sure enough, it did make me feel drunk, and it took the edge off the pain, but not entirely. I felt like it only lasted, like, 45 minutes. So I didn't even nap because I was still feeling the contractions. And so I finally was like, please like call anesthesia and give me the epidural because I need to rest before I push. And they were like, okay, no problem. And anesthesia came super quick. The epidural like did not hurt compared to the contractions. So I am, you know, all for the epidural. It was great. You know, as soon as he like put it in and like you feel the meds go in and you lose like the feeling in your legs, it was great. So yeah, I went into labor on my own. They never even gave me the Pitocin until later in the end. So my body was doing everything it was supposed to. So I got the epidural. I don't even know what time. I think like finally like 3 in-the-morning. And then they're like, we're going to come back and turn you every 2 hours since you have like no function from the waist down. So they came back to turn me once. So they probably put in at 3. They came to check me 4. And I think they checked me again. I was so tired. I finally got some sleep. And I remember at like 5 in-the-morning, she was checking me. And she's like, Isabel, you're at 9.5 centimeters. Like, this baby's coming out in like an hour or 2. And I was like, oh my gosh. Like, this is it. So I had to wake Zach up. And I had to call my mother-in-law and be like, hey, come to the hospital. Like, I'm about to start pushing. And she didn't think she was going to make it. But I think it took like, I think I pushed like within the next hour. So we started pushing. And I pushed for 3 hours. Finally, the last hour of pushing, they gave me Pitocin because my contractions were only 6 minutes apart. So I'd like push like 3 times and then have to wait 6 minutes to push again. So it was really exhausting. I didn't feel anything pushing wise, just like a lot of pressure, and it literally just feels like you're pooping. So that was okay. The end hurt really bad when the baby starts crowning. I remember I was like, I'm ripping. It burns. And that part hurt. And they did tell me that the epidural like may not cover like that pain or the ring of fire crowning pain. So yeah, I birthed him at 9:28. And it was like the most euphoric experience ever. Like, people talk about it and you don't like understand it until they like plop your baby on your chest. And it was just like the best moment of my life. And I remember looking at Zach and I was bawling my eyes out, and he definitely shed a few tears. His mother-in-law did. It was like all in all a great experience. So we did skin to skin for an hour. All right, I'm back to this location in the kitchen, but we did skin to skin for an hour, and then an hour after that we got moved to the postpartum suites. Everything went well in the hospital. We got to go home the next day, which was really surprising because they told me I wasn't going to be able to go home since my membranes were technically ruptured for so long. But we got out, went home, and it's been a huge adjustment. When they say that you don't sleep with a newborn, you really don't. They technically only sleep 2 to 3 hours at a time. And Lincoln, I think, did a 4-hour stretch at night once, but that's all I've gotten, and you kind of get used to it, but it definitely takes some time. I'm going to keep this video kind of short. I could go on and talk about other things, but in my next few videos, I'm probably going to talk about things I recommend bringing to labor and delivery, items I recommend buying, and items like I regret buying since I've already been through it. I think it would be a fun video for moms or soon to be moms. And also, you know, family adventures and things like that. But as of now, this is the end of my video, and keep watching my other videos if you're interested.